So good morning, everyone. It's so good to see you all. Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territories of the First Nations and Native American peoples. So I know those of us here in Vancouver are on the land of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations. But many of you are on the land of other nations. So if you'd like, please feel free to write those nation names in the chat. Always, let's remember our connection to our siblings in these nations and pray for the day in which we might be with them in right relationship. So welcome. Welcome to Living Interfaith. Know that the whole of you is welcome. You're not asked to leave who you are in your own homes. Please bring who you are in with you. But what you are asked to remember is that everyone around you has brought who they are in with them as well. And all of goodwill are welcome. And now, as I was just saying before this, today is going to work a little differently than usual. Usually we sort of take turns co-leading the service, and we have our wonderful musicians, Bruce and Cheryl Harding, with us. They're not with us today because instead they're celebrating Cheryl's birthday at Harrison Hot Springs. So a big happy birthday to Cheryl if she ends up watching the recording with us. We're sending her lots of love. So, and instead I'm delighted to be joined today by my friend Maggy Kaplan and my friend Olivia Fermi, and they're going to be sharing with us an Earth Treasure Vase ceremony. So the whole service is going to work differently than usual today. We're a pretty open group, so we like changing things up. And so I'm going to turn it over to them, and they're going to be explaining more about this and leading us in the ceremony today. So when you're ready, Maggy and Olivia.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Kathy, and thank you all for being here. This is very exciting for me. Just for you too. So what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about the Earth Treasure Vase practice, its history, and how we came to be involved in it, and what the specific intention of our vase is. By the way, introduce the vase to you right now. This is her, and and then Olivia will read a guided meditation that is part of this practice whenever the vase is opened. And after that, we'll open the vase and give all of you an opportunity to say your blessings, your prayers. If you have an actual physical offering, I think Kathy was going to put our email addresses in the chat, and you can get a hold of us and we can arrange to actually put your object, a sacred object, generally something from nature, but something that's important to you. If you have something like that you want to offer to the vase, we'd love to accommodate that and include it. So I'll start by talking a little bit about the vase. The Earth Treasure Vase practice comes from an ancient Tibetan Buddhist practice used in times of great unrest or difficulty. And it goes way back. It goes way back at least 1,000 years. The practice involves filling these consecrated little vases with prayers and blessings, and then planting them in the earth, where they are supposed to do healing and protecting of the earth. So the modern story of the vase started with Cynthia Jurs, a Buddhist student living in New Mexico in Santa Fe, who went on a pilgrimage to Nepal. And she went to meet a 106-year-old lama in a cave way up in the Himalayas. Charak Rinpoche was his name. And as she was going up the trail to meet him, she thought about what it was that she wanted to ask him. And the question that she asked him was, what can I do to bring healing and protection to this troubled planet, to this earth? And he gave her the practice of the Earth Treasure Vase. He then asked one of his students, Lama Sultram, living in a monastery nearby, to make vases, and he knew there would have to be a lot. So they eventually sent 70 vases to Cynthia in New Mexico. And our vase is part of the second group of 40. First group was 30, and they were bigger. They were bigger.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And these are kind of a nice little handful. And she went about trying to create an appropriate ceremony and an appropriate process for doing this. It took her a little while to figure that out, but then she began to bless these vases on her own, starting with the land very close to her in New Mexico, which was the center of the creation of the atomic bombs that were dropped on Japan at the end of the Second World War. So she was quite concerned about the nuclear contamination that was still there and was, difficult to deal with, especially for Indigenous people whose land the experimentation was done on. And gradually, she nurtured an entire global healing community, which she now calls the Gaia Mandala. And there are links to their website, which is quite a beautiful website with stories about all the vases that were ever planted. And there's some amazing stories. These vases are now, there are about 55 of them now planted on every continent, all over the world. And if you put a little light on every location where they're planted, it will form a kind of global mandala. So hence the Gaia Mandala. And together they are doing the healing work of protecting the earth and connecting all of us to all of our relations. So Olivia and I applied to steward a vase back in 2021. It was October, I think, when I first was introduced to the whole practice. I knew nothing about it before that. Olivia knows more about it, and she can tell you a little bit about that. I had been thinking about what I could do as an 80-year-old elder to help this earth that seems to be in such crisis at this time. And I had joined a legacy making project for elders, and they were all coming up with these wonderful ideas that were artistic and writing and all sorts of things, and none of it was really touching me. And then a couple of weeks later, Olivia sent me a link to the full moon ceremony. It happens every month. The Gaia Mandala community, usually with Cynthia present, blesses a vase. And I was so touched by that ceremony that my immediate question was, what can we do to steward the vase for British Columbia? Why British Columbia? Well, the summer before, in 2021, you'll remember that this is when the unmarked graves of the children at residential schools were confirmed. I mean, certainly the Indigenous communities knew about them for a long time, but they were confirmed, and for all of us, it was heartbreaking. And so we applied to become stewards, and we presented the idea that we wanted a vase that would heal and protect the Indigenous survivors of the trauma of the residential school genocide. And eventually they thought that was a really good idea, and we were granted stewardship, which is a huge honor, and we're very much aware of what an honor it is. So I'm going to just tell you what the intention, the full intention of this vase is for British Columbia. Our intention is for the British Columbia vase's journey and planting to unfold in an honorable and respectful way for the good of all. The Earth Treasure Vase of British Columbia is dedicated to healing intergenerational trauma of the residential school genocide, to supporting Indigenous and non-Indigenous defenders of land, water, and all of our animal and plant relations, to allying with each other with respect and for the benefit of Earth and all our relations. And lastly, adding another vital light to the Earth Treasure Vase Gaia Mandala. So the vase took a while to get to us. It finally came to us late last August, and we were invited by a Tsleil-Waututh elder to come to Weyawachin and do an in-person gathering to welcome the vase. And that was an incredible experience. It really was. Weyawachin is also known as Kate's Park in North Vancouver, was land given back to the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, whose land it was. And they in turn offered to share it with the city of North Vancouver. So we met there, and we went through this very same ceremony that we're going to be doing today. And then we got to the place where we passed the vase around. As each person, it was opened, as each person made their blessings and prayers into the vase and their offerings, there was a sense of the vase taking in these offerings and then giving them back to each of us. And there was a healing that came into me that was just profound. And since then, whenever either of us is in need of healing, I always suggest that we have to trade the vase off now and again. I always suggest that whoever needs the healing gets the vase for a while, because I think she's got tremendous power, but you'll see later. For me, the qualities that the vase embodies are the qualities that I want to leave the world. Kindness and compassion and generosity and love. And yeah, it's been a great teacher to me, and I'm really looking forward to sharing it with you. Olivia, is anything you want to add to that? Or
you've really done a beautiful job, Maggie. And I really appreciate all that you shared with everyone. Maybe I'll just add a tiny bit before I lead the meditation. You might be wondering what kind of blessings people offer into the vase. And it's really as individual as each of us is. So is it okay, Cynthia, if I use you as an example?
You mean Kathy?
No, Cynthia.
Oh, Cynthia. Oh,
No, I mean Cynthia.
Oh, Cynthia, right, there is a
Yeah,
Cynthia.
because you shared at the beginning very personally about what's happening in Costa Rica, and there were so many examples of what somebody might offer into the vase, if that's okay with you. Yeah, so like you talked about how they don't have a standing army, so somebody could offer into the vase the wish for peace and that all armies would be disbanded except for keeping the peace, something like that. That would be an example of a blessing. Or that all animals be protected and that all animals be cherished. I think, Cynthia, you brought that sense of cherishing of the animals in Costa Rica as well. So those are a couple of examples. Sometimes people have had a dream and they share the medicine from the dream into the vase. Sometimes people just feel something in their heart during the meditation and then they bring that. Or it could have been something that Maggie said that sparked you that you want to offer into the vase. So it's really wide open to your comfort level and your heart's calling of what you want to offer into the vase for British Columbia and into the whole Gaia Mandala. And I'll just share a little story that just to make it so you get a little more sense of my connection with the vase. In 2014, I went to Japan, and it was a country that I'd wanted to visit since I was a kid. And I had really two drives to go to Japan. One was I loved the culture of Japan. I've studied Aikido and Shiatsu, and I just love the aesthetic of Japan. And the other one was, as Maggie mentioned, the heart of the Gaia Mandala is near Los Alamos, New Mexico. And in fact, the first vase was buried in a cave above Los Alamos. And my mother's father was one of the key scientists on the Manhattan Project, developing the atomic bomb. So as a child of that, I didn't meet him, but growing up with that reality I was born in the late 50s. It was something that was always present to me. And so I wanted to go to Japan to kind of make homage and go to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And that was when I was introduced to Cynthia, and I learned about the Earth Treasure Vase project. And so I was able to do the meditation. It was my first time doing it in Hiroshima with 2 Japanese women. And that was, as you can imagine, just talking about it now, I'm moved again to be able to help bring reparation to the nuclear legacy that we all share in my own small way. So, yeah, thank you for listening to our sharing. And in this next part, it's the meditation. It's kind of it's a cross between a meditation and a guided visualization. And it's about 15-20 minutes. And I encourage you to be comfortable. You can lie down, close your eyes. You can turn your camera off if you want to. It's a time to really go within and take in this beautiful Tibetan Buddhist Earth Treasure Vase practice. Let's begin by breathing in and breathing out, deep and slow. Feel your body relax. Sense the ground beneath you, holding you, offering stability and calm. Your roots reaching deep down into the earth. Breathing in and breathing out, drawing up through your taproot the nourishing energies and life force of Mother Earth, which she gives freely, generously to you, letting thoughts of the past and concerns for the future melt away. This is a precious moment in deep communion with the stabilizing, nourishing energies of Mother Earth. And from this place of being deeply rooted and grounded, we open up to the light above, feeling the warmth upon us from the sun and moon and stars glistening. Feeling expansive as we connect with the vast energies of the cosmos. Rooted below, connected above, in this present moment, breathing. And now, let's feel our connectedness to the special place you sit on the planet right now. Feel your relationship to the soils, stones, waterways, the forests, flowers, the communities of life who call these habitat their home, just like you, and who also receive stability and nourishment from Mother Earth and the warmth of the sun and moon, just like you. In this present moment, in this special place, we acknowledge those who have come before. We acknowledge the ancestors of the original indigenous peoples of the lands we inhabit, who have been in sacred relationship with our lands for countless generations. We acknowledge the future ancestors of the lands where we are, who will continue to hold this land as sacred for countless generations to come. And we humbly invite all of them to bless us and our practice in this present moment. Let's also call upon all our sources of inspiration, our own ancestors, whether of this place or of other places, elders, teachers and guides, lineage masters, Buddhas, bodhisattvas, and wisdom beings that we feel connected to, and invite them all to be present with us now. Invite their blessings to enter you and everyone who is present for this meditation. And receive the blessings of their love, support, guidance, healing, and clarity. As this blessing enters you, feel this love and caring coming all the way into your deepest heart of hearts, and breathe it in. And as you breathe out, send the love to everyone who is present in this circle. And as you breathe in, receive the love that is being sent. Breathing out, sending. Breathing in, receiving. Like the ebb and flow of the tides, washing blessings amongst us in this circle. Gradually expanding your focus to include all of your friends, family, and community, and all of those who this practice may serve. Imagine our circle gradually growing from our home, our neighborhood, bioregion, the country where we are and continent, to include all beings in all places everywhere. Embracing the whole planet with our love, breathing in, breathing out, blessing the whole planet. Now, with this feeling of rootedness below, expansiveness above, and waves of love flowing from your heart, let's turn our awareness to those who are suffering, the places where there is war, poverty, disease, pollution, droughts, or floods, or fires, wherever the need for healing is, wherever the need is very great. And now breathing in the suffering, and as you breathe out, send your love and caring to relieve the suffering of the earth, her people, and of all life, all around our whole planet. Imagine that where there is hunger, great nourishing gardens begin to grow. Where there is thirst, fresh, clean waterways spring up. Where there are unhoused, safe shelters are built. Where there is war and conflict, choirs of peace echo in the hills. Where there is sickness, vital health is celebrated. And of where the earth is unstable, in danger, or out of balance in any way, please imagine a restoration of balanced power, bringing protection and regeneration as you hear the song lines of the land sing in great harmonies. Now see the generosity and reciprocity in communities of life flowing freely. Seeing the beauty and richness of nature flowering into abundance for the sustenance of life, revitalizing this radiant blue-green planet we call home. As we hold this glowing vision of Mother Earth, we call into our awareness the presence of the earth treasure vases that have been planted or are in the process of being planted all around the world. Let us imagine that together we are pouring our love and caring in the form of light into each and every little clay pot buried in the body of Mother Earth, filling each vase with our deeper prayers and blessings for healing. Imagine each treasure vase radiating light in every direction, sending healing and protective energies wherever they are needed, in whatever form they are needed. Seeing the light like a rainbow streaming forth from each of the vases, white, yellow, red, blue, green, and all the colors in between. And breathing in and breathing out, allow the feeling of caring and compassion in your heart of hearts to grow. Send that love out in the form of light to all the people, animals, plants, and places that are connected to the earth treasure vases that need healing and protection in the past, in the now, and in the future. Beginning at the center of the Earth Treasure Vase Global Healing Mandala, in a cave above Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico, the birthplace of the atomic bomb. And to the north, at the source of the Rio Grande River in Creede, Colorado. To the south, at the mouth of the Rio Grande at the Gulf of Mexico. To the east, on top of Mount Baldy above Santa Fe. And to the west, on Mount Chicama, known as Sycamore, to the Tewa peoples of New Mexico. They are the custodians of the sacred lands where this Earth Treasure Vase mandala began. And now, having established the center and the four directions, see the mandala growing in every direction. To the Indian Point Nuclear Reservation on the Hudson River in New York. To the Headwaters Old Growth Redwood Forest in Northern California. The Punta Cometa on the coast of Oaxaca, Mexico. Vilcabamba, Ecuador. Jakovo, Kosovo. The Lawrence Laboratory at the University of California, Berkeley. The Taodam Forest on the border of Thailand and Burma. The village of Ein Karam in Israel, Palestine. Hiroshima, Japan. The cloisters in New York City after 9/11. The Biosphere 2 in Oracle, Arizona. The Martin Luther King Freedom Center in Oakland, California. To the source of the river Ganges in India. The source of the Amazon River in Peru. And the Southern Pacific Ocean, 93 feet down in Igam Atoll, the Trobriand Islands, Papua New Guinea. The Arctic Circle, Alaska. The Kogi lands of the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, Colombia. Telowayan Village, Lupa County, Wandjama District, Liberia, West Africa. The Blyde River Canyon, Limpopo Province, South Africa. and the Giza Plateau, Egypt. Haleakala, Maui, Hawaii. The Ntombwe Forest, South Kivu Province, Democratic Republic of Congo. Avebury, England. Bindaluk, Jawawan Country, Catherine, Northern Territory, Australia. And the second generation of Earth Treasure vases, starting in Gabarmang, Arnhem Land, Australia, the Mackenzie King Park, Ottawa River Valley, Ottawa-Gatineau, Canada, the original garden in Findhorn, Scotland, the Great Stupa of Buddhanath in Kathmandu, Nepal, the Flint Hills of Kansas in the heartland of America, the Santa Cruz Mountains near Silicon Valley, California, the Vase caldera of northern New Mexico, Honolulu, Bungle Bungles, the Kimberleys, Australia, the village of Utqiagvik at the edge of the sea in northernmost Arctic Alaska, the Hanford Nuclear Reservation on the shores of the Columbia River in the state of Washington, Mount Ryosen above Fukushima, Japan, and back to where it all began, at the cave hermitage of Charak, Nepal, to Margibi County, Liberia, in the base of an old ironbark tree on Dituhul Mountain in the Budawang Wilderness of Walbunja County, Yuin Nation, southeastern Australia, and to our root temple, Tolu Tarling Monastery in Nepal, the Munzer Valley in Turkey, Serpent Mound in Ohio, the Ashaninka Spiritual Portal, Campo do Rio Ammonia, Indigenous Land, Amazon Forest in Brazil, and in the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea, the Arhuacu lands in the Sierra Nevada of the Santa Marta, Colombia, on the inner rim of the Akaroa volcano in Te Waiponamu, the South Island, Aotearoa, New Zealand. And the third generation of Earth Treasure vases. These vases were made by their bearers. Antarctica, the Isle of Lewis in the Outer Hebrides, Scotland, the Saugatuck Dunes on Lake Michigan in the USA, and to the Highwood Valley in the Rocky Mountains in Alberta, Canada, Southeastern Turtle Island, US, Shakanaga, Tennessee, on the shores of Lake Washington and Kirkland, Washington, close to the first COVID hotspot in the US. And now we turn our attention to the 25 second and third generation vases that have been dedicated, including a vase dedicated to British Columbia, and are currently in the hands of their stewards, gathering prayers and offerings. And also the 11 second generation vases still awaiting their dedication, sitting with the mother vase on the altar. Once again, take a deep, slow in-breath and a deep, slow out-breath. And imagine all that is needed to relieve the suffering of the earth can be seen as light radiating out from each of these earth treasure vases all around our whole planet in every direction. Imagine this healing light flowing out from the vases, filling the whole global earth treasure vase mandala with the powerful energies of our love and caring. See this healing force traveling through the song lines and meridians of the earth, flowing into each location on the global mandala. See the mandala like a web of light embracing the whole planet. Feel the light flowing back and forth like waves from your heart to the earth treasure vases, energizing them and adding vitality and brilliance to the light that is then flowing out to the whole area and the sphere of influence of each of these earth treasure vases. Now imagine this light flowing into your own location, your special spot in nature, and feel the collective spiritual intelligence of the entire global earth treasure vase mandala activating your node on the global healing mandala and entering you as a holy vessel. For you are also a holy vessel. Finally, please focus your concentration one-pointedly on bringing healing and protection to the whole earth for all time. See the healing and protection radiating out from the vases around the world in waves of light, flowing back and forth endlessly. And you can imagine that the healing is accomplished and the vitality of the earth is completely restored. Now recognizing the great interconnected web of our life on earth, of which we are each a part, let's give thanks for this precious sacred time and pray that the compassion and peace that is our true condition may bring supreme happiness and benefit to the earth and to all beings. With another deep, slow in-breath and deep, slow out-breath, let's bring our awareness back to our body, feeling our feet on the floor, grounded on the earth and our own location, wiggling our toes, opening our eyes, and returning to the circle for sharing. I'll ring the bell 3 times while Maggie opens the vase.
So this is the vase for British Columbia. Open now to receive your offerings, your blessings, your prayers. Please raise your hand, either real or with a little hand raising thing if you want, and when you want to speak.
Dan? Please unmute.
Yes, I'd like to offer a prayer for all of the Indigenous families, the children, that were persecuted in Canada. And I pray for the healing of this atrocity throughout all of the continents that had this practice. And I also pray for the Indigenous people to continue to develop or redevelop their traditions so that we might be right with the earth and right with each other.
Beautiful, thank you. May it be so.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask for on behalf of neighbors to the south of Vancouver, down here, I want to ask that in this week especially that good sense and peace and listening rather than loudness occur in public discourse. Because everything gets harmed when it gets loud and not listening. That's my great wish.
Thank you. May it be so.
Pam?
Yes, it's my wish that for all those people who don't have enough income, even amongst us, have enough to sustain themselves in a manner that is dignified and enough.
Thank you.
May it be so. Kathy?
I want to offer a wish that may all of us feel our interconnection with one another, the connection of this vase to all the vases that you mentioned around the world. And while we have this horrible atrocity that's happened here, help us to see how other atrocities are happening in other places and how we all have to work together so we can protect children and families and traditions all around the world, so we might better take care of one another.
Thank you. May it be so.
Samir?
I am currently reading a book about how the impact of residential schools is still felt today in Indigenous communities, and how some of the social problems that are experienced by those experienced in those communities are a direct result of the stealing of the culture and of the erasure of the culture of the people who went through those, including breaking their ties to their language and culture and land in a process that has been described as cultural genocide by the UN. And I'd like to pray that the survivors and their families are able to recover from the impacts of the residential schools, and that the rest of us are able to be more understanding about the problems faced by Indigenous communities in particular, and to do our part to kind of help our Indigenous siblings return to a time when these social problems did not exist in their communities.
Thank you.
Lynn?
In this moment, I am asking for strength and restoration for the spirit of cedar and also the spirit of salmon. Our First Nation people are so linked with their own creation stories of birth from all our relations. And praying that that loving compassion reach roots. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rachel and then Janet.
Yeah, I'd like to pray for deep healing for the trauma that Indigenous peoples have suffered here and elsewhere, and healing for all people and reconnection to themselves, to each other, and to the land in a way that rebirths a deep caring for each other in the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My prayer is that the people of this land and of all lands find our way from our head to our hearts, that we hear the spirit that weaves through all, and that we turn from greed to respond to both the ache and the beauty of the earth's call.
Beautiful. Thank you.
May I offer something?
Mhm.
Thank you. This is from the Sacred Writings of My Faith.
Mhm.
O Creator, gather all people beneath the shadow of thy bounty and cause them to unite in harmony, so that they may become as rays of one sun, as the waves of one ocean, and as the fruit of one tree. May they drink from the same fountain. May they be refreshed by the same breeze. May they receive illumination from the same source of light. Thou art the giver, the merciful, the omnipotent.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to offer that all cultures and faiths work in harmony for earth care as the Indigenous people have, and that we, as Kathy says at often the beginning of each, at the beginning of each service, that we're in right relationship with the Indigenous people.
Thank you. Lynn?
Just because hearing the dogs barking, may we receive the wisdom of the star Sirius, the dog star? Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to offer up a hope that comes from Reverend Dr. Randy Woodley, who is an Indigenous teacher I've gotten to take classes with. And he says, let us all convert to an Indigenous worldview so that we understand our connection to the earth and to all of the earth's creatures. So let us all embrace that worldview so we can protect each other now going forward.
Samir?
And may we all embrace that worldview, because it is one of perhaps the only ways to escape and reverse the damage that is being done to our planet, and which could affect generations to come.
Yes.
I'd like to offer, and then Cynthia, I'd like to offer on this theme of restoring Indigenous worldview, that we recover that from our ancient memory. And I live near Reconciliation Totem Pole on UBC campus. And at the base of the pole is the traditional way of life before contact. And then the center of the pole shows the horrors of the residential school trauma and genocide. And then the top of the pole shows there's an eagle and there's two canoes going together. And so it's learning to embrace each other's cultures and move together. And yet we need to have that traditional way of being in harmony with the interconnected web of life as the base. So I'm so grateful for that base that's on that, on the reconciliation pole. And it shows a salmon shaman, and he's the one that says when to start taking the salmon, and he always lets the strong salmon go first without taking them, so that there'll always be enough salmon in the next year. And so that I want to offer that into the vase, that kind of holistic care and detail and love for the earth and all our relations.
Mhm.
Yeah, Cynthia.
In speaking of the Indigenous people, I'm drawn to the acknowledgement that the Indigenous are not only my people here or there in New Mexico and Texas, but also, and not only in the continents of Canada and and the United States, and as we go down into Mexico and South America, Central America, but the Indigenous also, I'm thinking of those in the other continents that were there long before man, I can say, started, destroying cultures in the name of religions, in the name of greed, in the name of power. And so when I think about the Indigenous people, I think of all the people in the world who all had an Indigenous root somewhere. And I'm speaking a little bit out of ignorance because I'm not really sure, like in Northern Europe, I'm not really sure what Indigenous people were there. But when I think about Indigenous people in Africa, there are plenty of Indigenous people in Asia. I can vision the Indigenous people. So it's just my ignorance, but I know that there are Indigenous people everywhere. And I know they've all suffered atrocities. So my heart goes to everybody. So just wanted to say that.
Beautiful, thank you. What's coming up for me right now is the deep connection we all have, all beings, animals, plants, everything, and the Indigenous people, all of them, all over the world, know this instinctively and have known how to protect all their relations. And I pray that this connectedness grows in us and that we know it fully as we need to as time goes on.
Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to add a prayer that we all learn to grieve well and hold spaces for grief and to process our pain so that we don't inflict it on others.
I have to tell you that the vase is vibrating with all of your offerings and wonderful words. And I wish you could all hold it. But she loves what you've been saying.
So to seal the ceremony, I'll read a dedication of merit, and that means that we're just thanking and focusing all the prayers that you've offered in our whole ceremony as a way of completion. For as long as the earth remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, may these earth treasure vases too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Through the merits of this practice, may all beings live in peace and harmony. May there be no more war or conflict, and may all hearts be filled with compassion.
Thank you. And I will put the vase back into its colors of the five directions.
Yeah, thank you all so much for so graciously and generously participating in this traditional Tibetan Buddhist ceremony.
It was so beautiful. Thank you so much, Maggie and Olivia.